Good evening, everyone. Today we have with us Tanvi Ma'am, and we're going to discuss some behavioral questions which is necessary for us to know as part of our placement preparation. This is something that comes into the mind of all of us while we're preparing, and to hear from a subject matter expert will benefit us all in the long run. So, without further ado, I'd like Tanvi Ma'am to explain the same.
Thank you. So we'll start off with saying that while it may seem there is a lot of time, and there is some time you need to prepare, but our advice would be that you start off now, right? These are behavioral questions. These are questions which are not your, which you can cover in your classes in terms of subject matter or your functional areas. These are things which would require you to think a little bit, go back and reframe question. Perhaps you may find that today what I wrote, maybe a day later or 10 days later, you may find I want to add on something to it. So last minute will just sort of add on to your anxiety. So it's better if you prepare in advance, start now, and you have sufficient time. Okay. The other thing is stories is one way of approaching, but what we have done is we have sort of distributed or divided these questions into certain buckets, right? Within these 64 questions. Now some questions are very unlikely to be asked just based on logic. You wouldn't have experiences like this, and some questions may not be relevant. Let's say if you're a fresher and anything about previous job X is not relevant.
Makes sense.
So you can pick and choose which I want. The other thing is try and see the rationale behind why the question is being asked. Some questions are specifically designed to rattle you, to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Because it's not that they have anything personal against you, they want to see how you will perform when you are a bit uncomfortable or a bit under distress, right? So it's not so much about what you answer, but it's about how you answer.
Right.
Okay. And the other thing is, you may not realize, or you may realize either way, but some questions are sort of connected, and you may feel, ये तो पहले भी पूछा था, why are we asking it again, or why is the same question being asked? Of course, they are not going to ask only from this list, but the reason being they could ask you the same thing in two different manners, because they are trying to check that whether you they felt that probably you were insincere in the first one, or you were not convincing in the first time you answered. So they are asking another way to sort of check.
So can we assume it's a confirmatory question from
Yes,
that side?
yes, you can. Also, it is, because again it's behavioral, so they may need more evidence. So so the easiest way to do that is just answer truthfully all the time. So you don't have to worry, what did I tell you the first time? Because if you bluff the first time, you'll have to sort of support your bluff the next time. And it becomes difficult when you are under the pressure of the interview and you are anxious, right?
Correct.
So it's better then to sort of be honest throughout. And just in case you feel I don't have stories for all the questions, I don't have incidents to report on all of that, I don't have any answer for all of this, okay? Then one thing is, that's all right. See if you have something, so again try and understand the intent, right? And then see if you have something to answer that, because these are questions about you.
Right.
Well, maybe you have not had all the experiences that they're asking, but you will have some views about that, some opinions about. Maybe you feel I have never had a situation in which I was under extreme pressure. Okay, or as they have asked about something about something about fatal flaw, something like that. You don't think you have something to answer right now. That's all right. Take some time and think about what is your opinion. And you can always say that if that's asked, you can say that I don't really have an story or I don't have an example of it. But this is what I think would happen if I'm confronted with a situation, or this I have thought about it. Or maybe in the class we were taught about it, or there was a concept, or we had a discussion, so I have some idea about it.
So creating a rationale that will support rather than an example in that particular case.
Because sometimes, for example, even someone with a work experience of even say 5 years may have not done something which qualifies as a leadership attribute, and that's all right. Okay. You may have not had that experience for 5 years of doing something which shows your leadership skills. You may have managed a team, but you may have not led it in the terms that they are looking for.
Okay.
So you can always say that I did not have that chance for leading or something. But considering, let's say, a course that I studied, or the committee that I am in, or I'm learning to see what kind of a person I am, what kind of a leader I want to be, this is what I think I would be.
Oh, that's nice.
Right. And this shows mainly that even when you don't have an experience, you still have given it some thought. So it shows maturity. So the idea is you are not expected to know everything about yourself at all. The idea is you are aware enough that these are some things I know. This is what I can back it up with, and these are some things I have given thought about because I thought they were important for the job.
Got it.
Yeah? So again, that is the intent.
So it's more about you are owning up to things that you don't know.
Absolutely.
But you're making the interviewer aware of the fact that you've given enough thought so that you have, an eagle-eye perspective or rather a holistic view about whatever is going on.
Because this is about you. They are not asking what kind of what kind of co-workers would you want or something like that. In fact, that's also a question which is not here. But it could be asked, what kind of a team do you like? So you can just say, because you've worked in, let's say, so many group projects, that I prefer such or something like that. Also, don't worry whether this is, politically correct, and we'll come to that part of as well when they're asking scenario-based questions. Being politically correct is good. Yes, you absolutely have to be that, but not to the extent that it sounds very phony, that you are giving extremely safe or diplomatic answers. Right? So, obviously, you don't use non-parliamentary language, you don't take strong stance on something to the extent of, oh, but this is wrong, I hate the country, I hate the PM sort of way. But you do need to take a stand. Some questions will be asked for you to take a stand on. Yeah, and when we discuss the hypotheticals, we'll come to that as well. The first 3 questions, if you look in your list, they are all about you, right? Now, tell me about yourself is a gateway question. Okay, what I mean by gateway is actually one of the most important questions. One is they're trying to make you feel a little better. You've just walked in, you might be a little anxious. So you settle down and you say something which you have prepared.
Correct.
This is absolutely about you. So this cannot take you by surprise. So they are trying to make you feel comfortable. In that time, they also get, maybe even if they're seeing your CV, just to recollect few points or something like that, right? So the ideal combination is you say what's on your CV, the summary of it, but you also mention things which are not on your CV, okay, which you feel should be mentioned about you for whatever reason. You don't have to say the reason that, Playcom didn't allow me to put this, hence. No need to say that. Just because they're asking, tell me about yourself, take it. Assume that they have not gone through your CV, but make a description in that sense, a snapshot, like an elevator pitch about yourself. This is that. The second thing is, and why I'm calling it a gateway question, is that whatever you say in this, largely that is what they're going to ask on, right? So whatever thing you mention in this, so if you forget to mention something, then chances are वो नहीं पूछेंगे. Right? And if you mention something which you are not comfortable at, then don't do that, right? Because this is what you are telling them, right? And it gives you, it's sort of a nudge that you are giving them, that this is the 5 things about me which are interesting, right? So that is what they'll ask you. Sometimes, so for example, some people who would have taken these CAT interview preparations, they have these typical answers. I come from the pink city and city of lakes and some city, etc. Avoid those phrases. Because see, the whole point of all of this is what? That you give something in 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever your longer interview is, that makes you memorable about not just your batchmates here, but whatever institutes that you are going to. So if you give me the same answer in the first 2 lines, it feels that you have already, what does it tell me? If you give me an answer, however great it may sound, however poetic it may sound, but you tell me, I am from the city of lakes and this and whatever, it just tells me one more person who is just being general or who is just trying to be like the others.
You kind of lose the interviewer there.
Exactly. The first few seconds you have lost me as an interviewer, right? Then I feel, okay, you are not original.
Right.
Yeah? So, and this is just a general interviewer. If you have, sometimes you may have somebody who is really fussy, they may just really keep asking you weird questions on that to make you more uncomfortable. So it's okay to say where you are from. Don't try to add unnecessary adjectives because it's about you, right? So be authentic. Unless, nobody talks like that, right? When you meet normal people, you are not going to talk, I am from this city or that city and the great city of lakes or whatever it is. Somebody had mentioned that. I forgot which city is the city of lakes. I think Nainital or Bhopal or something, right? So you stay normally. This is why I am. Now, what do you include in tell me about yourself? Okay, of course, about you. Background may consider the time. If you can include a little bit about your family, like 1 or 2 sentences, if you are comfortable to talk about that. The reason why you're mentioning family is because culturally, This is a generation above you in terms of, these are people who are, even if they're 2 years above you, 2 years older to you, the generation wise, there is importance on family. Right? So family in the sense that you don't again have to mention I come from a large family, nuclear family, that sort of thing. But for example, if someone tells me that their parents have been in the service industry or have been working for a long time, or maybe the father retired after 40 years of working in the same company, or whatever, or the mother did this or whatever, mother was a teacher, jo bhi hai. Point is, it tells me the values that you have been brought up with.
Okay, nice.
So it also tells me that because the parents were working, they have sort of given you have an idea of how corporate work looks like.
Right.
So you don't absolutely have no idea as to what a job is and what importance of salary and those.
Can I make a fair assumption here to say that probably when you give your father's background or your mother's background for that matter, it gives an idea that you are already pre-exposed to that particular industry, and it kind of becomes.
So that also would add on. But let's say even if that's not matching, also suppose. For example, my father is in the shipping industry. There is nothing connected to education.
Of course.
But if I were to say that, I always say that he's been in the shipping industry for 40 years. He retired after 40 years. It shows that in my house, the values about hard work and sincerity and those sort of things would have been there. Or if I mention, let's say that, oh, my brother is a chartered accountant, he has his own firm in valuation, it shows that we have been brought up on this thing of education is important. Something, those sort of things. You don't need to spell it out. Just give a couple of sentences, and you don't have to be embarrassed about, because some people do that, my mother is just a housewife or something like that, or my father is just a clerk. We're not doing any value judgments. We're just trying to give a background of who you are, right? Because right now, who you are exactly is very, it's in the formative stage. So we go to your family. And in a good way. Even if you don't mention, it's okay. It's nothing that you have to mention. Some interviewers might ask you, and then depends on your comfort level, you can tell them. Legally, they are allowed to ask anywhere in the world. It's absolutely okay to ask, and legally you are allowed to, legally as in generally you are allowed to say no also. Don't say why is this relevant, or don't become a little defensive. Just say that I'm or just give a little nonchalant answer sort of thing. That's also okay. That is So tell me about yourself with that. Then you mention something about family, something about your education. You don't need to go on 10th में ये किया, 12th में ये किया, मैंने science graduate, commerce graduate, nothing like that. You can, if you have, like if you're your college label is very important, let's say IIT or whatever are the other important institutes that you are from, say an SRCC or is something like that in your graduation. If it's a label worth mentioning, if you like it, or BITS or whoever are the bigger labels, then you can mention that, absolutely. Because if you need them to register that, please mention that. Without sounding arrogant about it, but you just have an IIT Roorkee graduate with
in whatever. Rather than
yes, and it's absolutely good to you have earned that by merit, so you can already mention that. Sometimes students sometimes mention some certificate course that they have done. We had someone who had said that I did some digital analytics course from IIM Bangalore. That's like a 2-month thingy that you pay and do it. Tab IIM Bangalore mat mention.
Right.
Because it's not by merit, right? Anybody could have done it. Just mention I've done a course in digital analytics. And अगर उनको जानना है ज़्यादा, suppose कि आपने कहाँ से किया है, that time they will ask. Right. So it's a subtle thing. So whatever you've done in graduation, if you've academically, if you're strong, you mention that you've been for second if you've come, or you've been a high academic achiever or entire school life or something. Please mention all of those in the tell me about yourself. Perfect. And it might seem you're bragging, but the idea is you're supposed to do that while sounding a little bit humble. So it's absolutely okay to say those things. You don't need to mention your GMAT or CAT percentages. Right. You are here, so we know you have certain number of percentages. Okay. And these are mistakes some people do. Okay. Some people mention I qualified for IIM Calcutta, but I chose SP. No need to say all of those things. Yeah, because there is no point. Exactly. Right? So and there's a different room in which you need to brag about this. Interview is not that, right? So you tell me about yourself, is your family, your education. Then bring in a little bit about actually yourself. What do you like? If you have something which is a really interesting interest. Like, for example, a lot of people mention they go on these solo trips, hiking, nature. Some people like reading or... so reading also... most people will not ask you, tell me about the book you are reading. Most now will not. Okay, because now it's nothing new. But some might if they want to check. But अभी थोड़ा कम हो गया. पहले पूछते थे because पहले लोग people used to lie a lot in that, and you know whatever are the top 5 books they used to say. But now उनको पता है that when somebody says reading, they actually mean it. Right. And most of the time, even if they don't mean it, they have prepared that either the 5 books that are supposed to be, and you'll get this general usual suspects which are there. So it's okay to mention reading, but that's not a nudge if they don't pick up. Right? If you are very passionate about something and you want to mention that, then that's a nudge. Interest area is a nudge, right? And then you can put in a couple of qualities about you. For example, say I love traveling is one way to say it, or say I love exploring new places, something like that, which tells me one is, so then I will sort of ask you, okay, how do you do that? Where do you go? When was the last time you did? When you say exploring new places, what are the kind of things? What are the kind of places you've been to? Can you tell me some interesting place that you've been to? If you tell me I like watching movies and sitcoms and series, chances are I might not ask you a follow-up question because again it just seems okay. Nothing wrong in saying that. And nothing wrong in if saying that is the only hobby you have. That's absolutely okay. Be comfortable. You are not being judged for your having 5 hobbies or the lack of it. Right? Just own up to whatever it is nicely. A whole, as I said, an elevator pitch of this is who you are as a person. Right? So, usme se bhi 3-4 points at least they should be able to follow. So, they will follow up about education. If you have work ex, they'll follow up about that. And they'll follow up about something of on you also. And they'll ask you about some quality or something like that. If you have done, so work ex agar hai, to of course you mention that. If you are a fresher, do not mention that you have worked as an intern, let me rephrase that. You have worked, but you have been an intern. So don't say that I have worked in the corporate. You've been an intern. There's a difference. And if you say I've been, see what happened is, suppose I say that I was working somewhere for 2 months as a consultant or something like that. And these are real examples I'm giving, right? What it tells me, the reason I'm working is 2 months, so then okay, why did you quit? Then they said that, oh, I was in an internship. So you were not working. Now what does it tell me is, either you don't know the difference between internship and working, or you are misrepresenting. Right. Both are red flags. Right. Yeah, so either you are so naive or you are duplicitous. Okay? Either way, I am not interested. Yeah. So in that sense, just say that I did an internship, and don't, even if you have qualified as you were called a consultant or you did a consulting internship, you're still an intern. Because the point of being an intern is you are just exposed to the level 1 of things. So, utna aapko pata hai. So, you've seen what an office looks like. You know how workplaces are. That's the only extent of your internship, which is good. Right. Okay? Which is absolutely good. 2 months, 6 months, whatever. Some people do an internship while they are preparing for CAT and stuff. So, that's also okay. Right? So, you can mention that I know certain things. It's not expected that you would have learned the secrets of the office space. You just have, probably you learned that you want to be independent or you want to be self-sufficient. You probably learned how to stay out of home, or if it was during COVID, then you learned how online working. So you have some opinion to give on online work. Or that because I worked as an intern in one of the market research firms, I know now that I like a little bit about marketing. I would like to explore that as a future career. So it shows me that you are not absolutely unaware of what is happening. Yeah, so whatever is the real. So that's about that.